Firstly, before I go anywhere, I'm going to introduce myself, but I'm going to do it in Irish. And I had the question here this evening, and I've had the question before. Irish, what's that? I thought it was Gaelic. And we'll talk all about that soon, as to how they're different, or how they're not different, actually. So, is Misha Vivienne Sayers O'Callaghan is as cúnta carcíme, ach rugach is tógach a cúnta ciaríme. Chuas scoil I goláiste ide in Sandangan, agus sinna an fágfuil Gaelan a gom faoi láthair. Tá me macónaí in nua áireach le trí bliain a nuas agus an seo a nacht tá live ag múna Gaeilge díobh. So that's what Irish sounds like. You might have sat there and said, sweet mother of God, what was that? So that was the Irish language, something that I've spoken since I was going to say yay high, but that's the height of me now. Yay high, much smaller. The Irish language, or actually I'll actually say what I said in English now, that might be a little bit easier. So my name is Vivienne Sayers O'Callaghan. I have a double-barreled surname, not for any fancy reason other than I liked my mom's maiden name and I liked my dad's maiden name, I was going to say. My dad's surname. O'Callaghan is from Cork and Sayers is from Kerry out the Dingle Peninsula. Yes, lots of Kerry people here, great. I would love to say the best county, but I'd be disowned from Cork as Kerry is the best county, but secretly I really truly do think it is. It's so beautiful. So I'm living in New York the last 3 years, but of course I was at home before that. I was born in Cork. I was born in North Cork, a place called Carrig na Bhar, which still has its Irish language or Gaelic name, which means the rock of the men, Carrig na Bhar. All our place names are very descriptive as to what is in the town. As you can guess, there's a big rock in our town, which is why it's the rock of the men. And then I was raised in County Kerry, so my mom is a Kerry woman, my dad is a Cork man, which makes GAA football matches awfully difficult because we are rival counties, because we are bordering counties. And they're the best thing if you ever have an opportunity to go home to Ireland and attend a GAA match, whether it's hurling or football, Gaelic football, you will have the best time, night, day, morning of your life. It's the best energy ever. So that's essentially my story. And I'm here talking to you about Irish tonight and the Irish language because I moved to New York 3 years ago. But before that, I moved to Boston, one of the most densely saturated Irish-American places in the United States. And when I moved over, I was in the middle of my Bachelor of Music. My background, I'm a classically trained opera singer, which has absolutely nothing to do with anything I'm doing today. Besides, I do sing in the choir at St. Patrick's Cathedral on 5th Avenue, so at least I do that. I have to keep my heritage in there somewhere, especially with my music. Even though it's classical, we don't have a lot of that at home. So I moved over here during actually my senior year. We don't call them senior year at home, we just say my 4th year, so my last year in university. I moved to Boston, completed my degree in performing arts, and I was particularly focused on early music. So it's a bit weird and niche. I love Renaissance music, I love medieval music, I love early Baroque music. That means Handel, Bach. Then slightly later, Mozart, Handel. So that's my greatest love in life. And when I completed my degree, I moved down to New York because where in the world was I going to be for classical music other than Vienna? I wasn't going learning German, so I moved to New York because I said the Metropolitan Opera House is there, Carnegie Hall is there, all the biggest stars are there, so let me go there. It was finally a place that fed my ambition and my love and obsession with work and getting stuff done. So I moved here when I was about 21 years of age. When I was here, I was like, wow, being Irish is one of the best things about me. Like, it was a conversation starter with everybody. It didn't matter what culture, what background, what religion they were. I had something to talk about with everyone, and I loved that. Like, it was just so convenient for me. I made a joke earlier that I'm well able to talk and I'm well able to chat, and people of Irish heritage or Americans might say, oh, I went to Ireland and I kissed the Blarney Stone. Aren't you supposed to get the gift of the gab? You're supposed to get a load of conversation once you kiss the Blarney Stone. And I joke and I say, well, I was born 10 minutes away from the Blarney Stone, so the gift of the gab was just in our water, essentially. So we have it ingrained in us. And I made that joke earlier. My grandmother was known as the woman who would talk for Ireland. We talk a lot, lots of conversation. So I found, having moved here, the most interesting thing about me was not being an opera singer, was not having musical abilities, it was the fact that I was Irish. And I said, I'm going to dig my heels into this because this is valuable, and it is. That's why I'm here today. And it's how I make a living, actually, which is phenomenal. So, down to being someone who was born outside of the United States, it's incredibly, for those of you who don't know, it's incredibly difficult to be here. Essentially, immigration and visa-wise, really, really, really difficult, even from Ireland. The longest visa I could get as a 21-year-old was 1 year long. I had no other opportunity to come back to the United States for about another 5 years after that. So I came to New York, the greatest city in the world, besides Cork, and I was like, oh God, how do I stay? This is the best place ever. And thankfully, there are these silly names of very difficult visas to get by the name of the O1B, which is for people of extraordinary ability. So I was able to finagle my way into that, thankfully. So that's why I'm still here today. And while on my initial visa that I came on, it's very restrictive. I had to work in a corporate role, and if you look at me, I'm not a corporate woman, as you can see by any stretch of the word or imagination. So I worked in the global marketing team at the World Trade Center with a financial firm, and it was fantastic. But I said, God, there has to be more to life than this. This is awful. Now, the World Trade Center is beautiful. The financial district, or if you're in New York, FIDI, as you call it, is absolutely fabulous. But I said, I need to have a little bit more depth to me than this. So I started to make content. What does that mean? I started to make TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube videos about being Irish in America. Because I had so much to talk about. I had to talk about the differences between Irish people and what I called at the time American people, which I thought was one type of person, except there's a lot of different types of American people. And I used to often refer to New Yorkers as, why are these Americans in New York? And people outside of New York would say, no, New York are not Americans, they're different type of people. And I used to talk about the differences between both of us. I used to speak about, well, this is what Americans do, or i.e. New Yorkers, and this is what Irish people do, and this is what I'm having to learn as an Irish person who's 21 years of age living in this the concrete jungle. So I would create a video every single day documenting my journey. And it got about 2 or 3 months in. I had 50,000 followers, then I got to 100,000 followers, then I got to 200,000 followers. Excuse me, I had too many quesadillas a moment ago. And then I got to 250,000 followers. And if I had enough time in my day, I'd be at 1 million followers now, but I said I'd better start making some money, so I stopped making too much content. So I've 250,000 followers on social media now, and that is just purely from promoting the Irish language, Irish culture, and Irish arts in the United States. Yes, I wanted a small bit more depth to me and to tell people, well, this is modern Ireland, this is who Irish people are today, but mostly it came from the fact that I would meet people who maybe weren't so familiar with Ireland, or I would meet people who were of Irish heritage, but maybe very distantly, and they had very different ideas as to what Ireland is and was, as opposed to my lived experience. So I'd say, oh, I'm from Ireland. Number one, we say, I have to enunciate Ireland, whereas we call it Ireland. But if I say Ireland to anyone over here, they'd say Arlington. Oh, I'm where's that, Virginia or somewhere? Yeah. And I'd have to turn around and say, no, Ireland. I'd have to say it like an American for people to understand. And that's where it began. Then it went to, oh, I know about Ireland, they'd make jokes. Don't you like potatoes? Don't you, oh, the famine. What do you think about English people? Oh, you must love to drink. And the worst one that I didn't understand until I came across Notre Dame was, oh, you must love to fight. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? I was so appalled by the vision and the caricature that people had formed about us as Irish people. And I was like, this is so awful, because this is not my lived experience of my country at all. Now, we're well able to dig into the stereotypes. There are over 13,000 Irish pubs in the US, and boy, do we use it, and gosh, we make a lot of money at it. And we love having the crack. The crack meaning a bit of fun. We love having a bit of fun. But I wanted to tell the deeper narrative of the country, and the country that I grew up in. Because I didn't grow up in 1916, I didn't grow up in 1921 during the Civil War, I didn't grow up in the 50s, 60s and 70s when the country was absolutely split and falling apart, and people wouldn't talk to each other, people were blowing each other up. I wasn't even born in the 90s, so I don't even have any sort of knowledge of the end of the Troubles even. Now, I was born in 2001, but I didn't become conscious until 2010, so that's my idea of Ireland, is 2010 onwards. And no one knew about Ireland beyond the 2000s, and I was like, I need to do something about this. So I tell people about how I grew up and how, obviously, I was very fortunate. I grew up on a farm, like most of us bloody do, because there's nothing else in Ireland besides fields. And I joke about stereotypes, but that's a real stereotype. And I spoke about being on the farm with the cattle and the horses and the dogs and the cats. But something that added to my story was the fact that in my family we spoke Irish. And people would say, Irish, what's that? Isn't that your nationality? Isn't that where you're from? And getting deeper and deeper into conversations, I was a couple of months in America, and I was like, nobody knows what the hell Irish is. They've heard of Gaelic, they've heard of Irish Gaelic, but they don't even know that this is a currently spoken language in our country. So again, business-minded me was like, woohoo, another unique selling point, this is a great another conversation starter. So whenever people ask me questions about Ireland, it was then my time to shine and tell them about Irish. Excuse me, and that's why I'm here this evening, essentially, is to do the exact same. So the beginning was a whole spiel and introduction as to how I'm here and everything, but how do I speak the Irish language? And how does a lot of Ireland speak the Irish language, or Gaelic? Irish is a mandatory subject in primary schools, which is your elementary, middle school. It's also a mandatory subject in high school. Our high school is 6 years long, so I felt myself going into my American accent there. Wait, let me ground myself a little bit more back into my Irish accent. So until we're about 18, 19 years of age, we are learning the Irish language in school every single day. Now, this is where I was really, really lucky. There are Irish schools in Ireland, that sounds weird. There are Irish language schools in Ireland that it is mandatory to speak Irish 24/7. They're called Gael Scoilna, Irish language speaking schools. This was an attempt in the 1940s in Ireland to kind of contribute to the Irish language revival. Was we're going to make schools and subjects that are completely taught through the medium of Irish. So I was lucky to go to a middle school and a high school where I learned biology and English and French and music and geography and history through the Irish language. I was learning English in Irish, which is kind of insane to say. I was actually learning French through Irish as well. So that's why I have fluency today. And you might say, well, how does Ireland have the resources even to teach this language when we haven't even really heard that much about it at all? Is that number one, because we have these mandatory smaller schools to help people. And also these Irish Gael Scoilna, these Irish schools actually have a much higher quality of education, which is wild. Because a couple of 100 years ago, that was the peasants' language. Nobody wanted to speak Irish. And now it's completely completely flipped on its head. So I went to a boarding school because I walked into my parents' bedroom when I was 9 and said, I want to go to boarding school. And my mom and dad looked at me, they were like, you are in your hole going to boarding school, because it's $11,000 a year, which is huge in Ireland. That's a massive amount of money. And I said, well, my grandmother Geraldine went there, so I want to go there. Out in the middle of the Dingle Peninsula, in the middle of nowhere, with the sheep and nobody else. I thought that was a great idea at 9 years of age, and then I got there for a year and said, this is rubbish. So, but it is there that I learned how to sing, how to play the violin, how to contribute to society in the Irish language, how to play traditional Irish music, and especially how to love my own country. Because we don't know how lucky we are at home, honestly, we really don't. We don't know how lucky we are to be Irish, to have the language, to have an education system that is free, and have a third level education that's free as well. But again, I wanted to go to the paid boarding school, and my parents were like, off with you, so we won't see you for another 6 years, grand, no bother. So that's how I have Irish, and that's how 20% of the country has Irish as well, i.e. they're bilingual. They can speak Irish fluently. Unfortunately, the other 80% of the country doesn't speak Irish. Why is that the case? For obvious reasons. The Anglo-Normans, i.e. the English in the 12 and 1400s, came in and they said, screw the lot of ye, we're going to get rid of your language, your culture, your music, and everything else you have going for you. So we've been in an attempt since the early 1900s to claim our Irish identity back. And such an important part of that is our language. As of kind of COVID time, we've been really fortunate to see the country going through this sort of revitalization and what we like to call a renaissance, a new life, a renaissance of interest surrounding the Irish language. Even more so now, the younger generations are picking up the language and saying, oh, this is mine. This is something that was taken from us, and this is something now that I really want to know, and something that I feel a connection with. And unfortunately, there's still kind of until COVID, there was a lot of stigma around the language. And why was there stigma? Because we were still under that, excuse me for using those words, but it's true, colonized mentality of that language isn't important. I would often say in high school, why would we need to know that it's a dead language? Why would we need to know that we'll never make money off of it? But only having removed myself from the environment of being so lucky to have it, I say, wow, isn't it phenomenal that we have our own core to us that we don't even appreciate that much. So there's a saying or a proverb in the Irish language, Tír gan tonga is tír gan anam. Is a country without a language is a country without a soul. And it's something that we use so much these days when we're advocating for the rights of the Irish language and the progression and the promotion of it. So there was still a little bit of stigma around it, like growing up, why would we need to know that? That's not that useful. And then it took me moving to another country to realize what the hell I had was so valuable and so amazing. And I do talks like this a lot, and especially Irish language classes, always in bar settings, because we've got a couple of pints and it's way more fun when you have a couple of drinks in you. And it's making people get inquisitive again about, oh wow, that's actually something that we have and had, and I don't even mind our connection to it. Let me question it a small more. Let me talk about that a small more. Let me learn some more. So before I go on too much more anyway, that's why I'm here and that's my background and everything. But the Irish language itself, it's 2,500 years old. So Ireland was speaking Irish before Jesus was on the earth. How amazing is that? Yeah, right? And the Celts, we've heard of them a lot. The Celts came to Ireland in 400 BC, or that's what we think anyway, or that's what we believe. What's amazing about the Celts is that they actually covered basically all of Europe. It wasn't only Ireland, England, Scotland, Wales that the Celts came from. They came from the northern, the Indo-European plateau, which is just a fancy word for Europe, but essentially actually the Middle East. So the Celts and the Irish language and the roots of it actually come from the northern Iranian plateau. so the northern Iran, what we call today, which is phenomenal to think of, and to look at the maps and the migration of those people and how they made it to Ireland and to England and everything else, thousands of years ago, is fascinating. I could talk about that forever, but we essentially, we have kind of human life, solid civilization human life from the 400 BC onwards. We kind of have the very first written examples of the Irish language in 300 AD. And how is that language written? But in Ogham. Has anyone here heard of Ogham or Ogham? No? A couple of people here nodding yes. It's essentially, gosh, I wish I had a picture. Ogham is a carved alphabet into vertical standing stones. You've probably seen ancient photographs of standing stones in the middle of fields. And Ogham was carved into those in the 300s, 400s, and 500s in Ireland. And we still have lots and lots of them today. That is the very first example of the Irish language. Then the monks came, then the Vikings came and brought loads of knowledge and lovely stuff with them, and including writing. So we actually developed then into an Irish language alphabet, and written literary as well, kind of into the 700-800s then. The Anglo-Normans, as I said, came in the 1400s, got even worse in the 1500s, the 1600s. The language was declining at a vast, incredibly huge rate. 1700s, essentially, is the same. 1800s, of course, 1845, we have the famine where 4 million people emigrated out of the country, or died. I forgot that part. And then we have the 1900s where people were saying we need to get our country back, essentially. And then we have today, where we're so fortunate to turn around and say, we could actually enjoy this, and we can use this, and we can honor the history and the language that our ancestors did their very best to keep for us, essentially. I was speaking with a couple of people earlier, as I mentioned, about the differences between the Irish language and Gaelic. Is there a difference? Is it wrong to call it Gaelic? No, but we don't call it Gaelic in Ireland, and I'll tell you why. As I mentioned a moment ago about the Celts coming from the northern Iranian plateau, they planted themselves in France, and they planted themselves in Spain, Italy, up in Ireland, and in England, Scotland, Wales as well. All of those languages kind of in central continental Europe then sort of declined, because who did we have but the Romans taking over everybody? But the Romans never made it to Ireland, so we got to keep Irish, and we got to keep our Celtic language that is so ancient and far earlier and older than the English language. So now today we only have 6 living Celtic languages, and that might sound like a lot. Geez, I didn't even know there was 6 Celtic languages. There was so much more even 100 years ago. So the Celtic languages we have today, we have 2 schools, essentially. We have 2 types of Celtic languages. We have the Brittonic Celtic languages, and we have the Goidelic Celtic languages, or Goidelic/Gaelic. So when the language is referred to as Gaelic, you're actually referring to 3 different languages. What are those languages? Irish Gaelic, Scots Gaelic, and Gaelic spoken on the Isle of Man. In Scotland, they call it Gaelic. On the Isle of Man, they have another Gaelic sort of pronunciation. And in Ireland, we just call it Irish because it's Irish Gaelic at the end of the day. Or the Irish language in Irish is Gaeilge. If you want to try repeating that after me, it's probably the most important thing you learn today is the name of the language in Irish is Gaeilge. Gaeilge. It's sort of a W sound at the back of the throat, kind of a guttural. Gaeilge. There you go. Feels a little bit weird because as Americans, well, let's say we'll speak up here, we'll resonate through the cheekbones and the forehead, and we'll talk like this. But down when you're speaking in an Irish accent, it's very grounded, it's gritty, it's in the throat, it's guttural. And then in Irish again, is blah blah blah. You're using the throat a lot more than what you do in an American accent. So it's kind of an adjustment, but it's a fun adjustment. If you speak Russian, Ukrainian, Arabic, Yiddish, you'll have a super easy time with Irish, which is fascinating because they're way over on the east and we're way over on the left, the west. But it goes back to, again, the kind of history of migration throughout Europe, which is fascinating. So, where was I going with that? Yes, so there's it's two branches of the Celtic languages, as I said, the Goidelic and the Brittonic. The Brittonic Celtic languages are Welsh, a hugely widely spoken language in Wales. They've done a phenomenal job at reviving it, because of course they've dealt with the same things as we have with our lovely neighbours. They have the English also infringing on their culture and their identity as well. So the Welsh have done a great job. I think something like 70% of the country can speak Welsh almost fluently, because they have ingrained it so deeply in their education system as well. Then you have Cornish, spoken in Cornwall in England, which is basically almost gone. I think there's about 3 men that speak it, which is sad. We don't want that to happen to Irish either. And the third Celtic language that is still alive is Brittonic. Brittonic, spoken in Brittany, North France. If you've ever been to Brittany, you'll see that their music and their language and their culture is actually weirdly similar to Irish culture, which was weird. I went to an Irish pub once and I saw this woman dancing and I was like, what the hell is she speaking French? Because it sounds like the Irish language in a French accent when they're speaking their Breton, essentially. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? So then I learned there are 6 Celtic languages. They're the only ones that are alive. Gaelic, Scots Gaelic, Isle of Man Gaelic, and Irish Gaelic. So if you want to be a proper Irish person, you can call the Irish language Irish. You could go with Irish Gaelic if you want to, but it's a shame because people will go home and they'll say, oh, I learned some Gaelic. Diagwit can thought to Slán, and people at home go, it's not fucking called Gaelic. You can say as much as you want, that's not the name of the language. But if you really want to impress people, as I said, it's called Gaeilge. There you go. It's kind of caveman-y sounding, and a lot of people will say, oh, it sounds like Simlish, which is the language in the game The Sims. And also, it sounds like you're in The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings or something like that, which is, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but we'll take it. What we also get a lot is, oh, that doesn't sound like English at all. And I'll say, well, English was started, it came about a long time after Irish. And just because I'm speaking English to you today and it is my first language, unfortunately, doesn't mean English and Irish are the same thing at all. They're vastly, vastly different. So that might be a cue, essentially, to teach you a small bit of Irish today. I really shouldn't have eaten those quesadillas before I'm so sorry. So if you're going to say hello in the Irish language, one of the most important things, the Irish language would be nowhere. We wouldn't actually have the language without God. God is in all of our words, which is fascinating. Even before Christianity made it to Ireland, we had the kind of higher power in our language, which is why we have a lot of folklore, we have a lot of superstitions, we have a lot of stories from hundreds and thousands, I guess, of years ago. But when Christianity came in then with good old St. Patrick in 432, the year that he arrived in, my granddad is a nun, and she was like, how do you remember the year St. Patrick was here? 432, very simple. I never forget. I think that's right, anyway. Could have made that up. So, to say hello in the Irish language, repeat after me, is Dia, Goit. And that means God be with you. Yes. Dia Goit. Right. And say it super fast now. Dia Goit. There you go. So don't think about it too hard. That's the worst thing you can do with any language is Dia Goit, because you're going to sound like an alien. Dia Goit. Lovely. And then this is where things get really, really holy, is we don't repeat back to you, God be with you too. We actually, in fact, say, God and Mary be with you. So we want to one-up you. So we say, Dia is. Muira Gwit. So it's 4 words in total, unfortunately. Dia is Muira Gwit. Dia is Muira Gwit. And we'll try it quickly once. Dia smurgut. Yeah, just mold it all into one word. Dia smurgut. Close your mouth. Something I love to do when I do one-on-one lessons with people is I get them to physicalize the language a small bit more. So I spoke a moment ago about the language being a small bit more resonant down in the chest, a bit more earthy than the American floaty up here. Everything's resonant up here. The Irish is very earth. I don't know, earth is probably the wrong word, but so it's down here. If you want to put your hand even on your neck and speak down in a lower tone and say Dia gut. Dia is morgut. Lovely. And something that will help even more with the pronunciation is close your mouth as much as possible. Again, I know it sounds ridiculous, so you're not chewing it. Dia is morgut. We don't want that. No, Dia smurgut. I didn't even move my mouth. Dia smurgut. Dia smurgut. So it'll just help with the kind of Irishy sounding twang to it. Dia smurgut. So can someone tell me what next? I should have brought up one of my own sheets. Oh, what was the next one on the Irish phrase? Oh, sorry, that's the other one. The other one? I gave you 2 sheets, sorry. Do you mind if I grab that? Oh, sorry. Just so I can see. Oh, do you want? Sorry, thank you. So most important. Oh yeah. So I totally forgot the most important bits. Is a word that you'll see on the top of Irish pubs all the time throughout the US, throughout Ireland, throughout the world. There are something like 40,000 Irish pubs throughout the world, and they'll all say Fáilte. Fáilte. And it means welcome. That's one of the most important things you can learn is Fáilte.
Fáilte.
And that means welcome. Something that you see even more often than that is Céad Míle Fáilte. Céad Míle Fáilte. And that's 100,000 welcomes. That's like, because we're known, I think, as the land, or we say it anyway, we're known as the land of 100,000 welcomes, and that's exactly where it comes from. The Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes. And then we get on to Dia gut. Dia is morgut. And if there's one more important thing that you walk away with this evening is, of course, how to introduce yourself. It's very simple. Kind of the most simple thing I'll give you today is Misha. Great. So after Misha, you will say your name. So I will say Misha Vivienne. Misha Carrie. There you go. No, it's names. Misha
Carrie.
Lovely. Great. So we have Fáilte, welcome, Dia gut, hello, and Misha Vivienne, or Misha your name. I am. It's a very proud way to say my name is. We could get into my name is as well, which is a little bit, it's nice as well actually. So you would say your name first, so tell me all your name. Tell me your name. Carrie. Great. And then you'd say your name is. Oh, sorry, we're doing a different phrase now. Sorry, it also has the same word. So I'll tell you. It's Vivienne is Anam Dom. Yeah, this is the new one. This means my name is. There you go. So you say X is Anam Dom. Thank you. So yeah, we'll stick with Misha. I didn't expect that one to go. Sorry. And something that I love to tell everyone, and something that was important in the last class I did also, was a word that you will use and can use every single day. And why can you use it every single day? We say bye. We'll be saying goodbye to everyone here this evening. So this is an opportunity for you. Instead of saying, Fáilte, Dia gut, Misha, blah, 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 and just glitching because you don't know what you learned this evening, and that's fine. At least you can use this one word. Goodbye in Irish is slán. Slán. Great. We have a lot of people that know that. We'll do it once more. Slán. Slán. Great. The reason I say you can use that every single day anyway is because it is thought that the American phrase so long for goodbye comes from slán. With the Irish immigrants, I guess, when we started coming over in the 1800s, or even earlier than that. So, slán, so long, slán, so long. Very, very similar. So if you say slán to anybody on the street, they might think you said the other thing, so they won't question you too much. There you go. So you have a second page there as well. Sorry, I spoke for so long I didn't even get to go through all the other bits and pieces, but this is the most important kind of your Irish phrase book. These are all the things that you should know, and they're the best things to know. There's also phrases on there as well that say, I am from Ireland, I'm from America, is us Éireann me, is I'm from Ireland, is us America me, is I'm from America, or the United States, is us na Stát Aontaithe me. If you're from New York, is us nua Amhrach me. If you're from New Jersey, is us nua Jersey me. So there's lots of different words we can use. So I know I'm coming towards the end of my time here. Sorry, I could probably do another 3 hours. I realized I didn't have that much time when I actually wanted to teach you some Irish. The most important thing that I said you'll go home with is slán. Yes, goodbye. But if anyone here is on social media, if anyone here uses emails, if anyone here uses their bloody mobile phone, this is the page for you. Use Irish in everyday life, because I have given you 0 excuses now to leave Irish out of your life. I've given you social media captions, I've given you email signatures at the end of the email, you know, when you're signing off, blah, 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 my name. And also have an excuse to use it in your text messages. So, Miss President, I would hold you to that now. I'll hold you to your emails and your text messages, your group messages should say dia quit, hello, and goodbye, slán.
Okay, they will check.
Wait, I'm social media, I'll be watching you. So just to work through this very quickly, use Irish in everyday life. I'll start at the top left of it. It says Sean in the kind of bigger words on the left. Sean O'Callaghan for our social media captions. Sean O'Callaghan directly translates to old sayings. And in English, I guess we call them proverbs because they all mean something. But Sean O'Callaghan, old sayings. The first one is Ní neart go cur le chéile, and it means there's strength in unity. And it basically just means things are easier when you do them together. The next one is Bíonn siúlach scéalach. One of my favorites, one who travels has stories to tell. And these are ones that I put here that are very easy. Ní neart go cur le chéile, you could put with a picture of your family. Bíonn siúlach scéalach, you could put with a picture of you on vacation. The next one, Gurríonn burnt bóthar, too short in the road. You could post that with a picture of your dog or your cat or your best friend. And the last one is one of my favorites, is Glock bug on sale agus glocking on sale bughu. Take the world nice and easy and the world will take you the same, or do the same. A lot of our phrases are very soft and mushy like that, but they're helpful and they're great. The top right of the page then is email signatures. I do not send one email. Actually, Charlene might say something different now, but I don't send one corporate email, let's say, without using, a signature at the end, which you guys would probably use kind regards, all the best, with every good, or whatever you else might say. Yours sincerely, thank you. Forgotten how to speak English now. But here are some other ones you could use. You could put le mas. So what I do is I put le mas in italics and bold. Underneath it, I then put the English translation with respect, and underneath that, my name. So I do always put the English translation. Why? Because it tells them what it means, but it also shows them that I've given them a phrase or a language that they may not have seen before, and it makes the other person reading the email inquisitive as to what exactly is this. And if they're like, oh, she's Irish, they might say, oh, that must be her own language. Or it might prompt them even to look it up on Google, because that's what we're doing right now. We want to create conversation and accessibility around the language. So these are some really easy ways to use it. So in the email signatures, le mas, with respect, Le gach da gui, this is the one I use, which means best wishes, but direct translation is with every good wish, which I love. Slán, which you just learned, slán agus benacht, goodbye and blessings. And then the last one, le davein, with kind regards. So they're very similar in English as they are in Irish, they're just in Irish at the end of your email. And then very simply in your text messages, Míle buíochas, it means many thanks. And in brackets there, or in parentheses as we'd say over here, Míle buíochas. That's the kind of phonetics for you there, many thanks. We have slán, which you can use at the end of your text messages as well, and Iha va, good night, Iha va. So there's lots there for you to choose from. You can put a highlighter through the two that you're going to use, or the one that you're going to use moving forward. This page is just for you to look at and to say, I felt a connection towards this one, I can use this one in my daily life moving forward. Because that's exactly what we're trying to do here, is create conversation around it, create importance again around the language, because as they say, or as we say at home, without a language, or a country without a language is a country without a soul. The Irish language does so much and feeds so much into how I'm even speaking with you today. The English that I'm speaking with you today isn't, we don't just call it English at home, we call it Hiberno English, because we phrase things in different ways as to how the English would, or the native English speakers would. Like, I would say, I'm after having dinner. What the hell does I'm after having dinner mean? Does that mean you just ate dinner? Yeah, Comic Horatio an dinner comes directly from the Irish language. That's the exact sentence structure in Irish. So then it's moved its way into our English, which we now call Hiberno English. I'm after eating, oh, and the other one, I do be doing that. I do be doing the washing. I do be doing the going to the supermarket. That comes directly from Irish as well. So there's so many more classes and things I can tell you about the language and about what makes you who you are because you come from Ireland, and what makes your parents or your grandparents say the things that they do because they have Irish ancestry in them, or they were born at home as well. And other things, we have lots of words in the Irish language that we don't have in English at all, which makes it so special. One of them being, I love to say this, we're known as the land of the storytellers. We all kind of have that little bit of a stereotype, and it's because the language made us that way. And an example of that is, of course, we have a lot of fishermen at home in Ireland, and we have a lot of farmers, and one of the best phrases to come out of the fishermen is out in Connemara in Galway, in the Irish language speaking region of Galway, when the lads are out in the boats. And if it's a rough sea, you can imagine the rough coastal sea banging up against the cliffs at home, and it's all the white fuzz and white water and white waves are all crashing up. And in English we might say, oh geez, the sea is rough, or there's white foam, as we'd say, on the sea. But in Irish we'd say, "Tá blá báin ar garí an iascara." And that's quite a normal thing to say. And what it directly translates to is, there's white flower on the fisherman's garden. So the reason, yeah, right, it's amazing. We have such descriptive words, we have such descriptive, it is poetic, that's the word I'm looking for. And then we have funnier things. We quite literally, we're a type of people that just say what it does on the tin. And back to the fisherman. A jellyfish in Irish isn't a jellyfish, it's smugger la roan, which is seal snot. A squirrel in Irish isn't a squirrel, it's Madra Cream, which is a tree dog. A hedgehog in Irish isn't a hedgehog. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it in English, they're quite descriptive as well. But in Irish, they're grogno, which means ugly little thing. Which is important, because I think hedgehogs are quite cute. And then we have words in the Irish language that haven't made it into English at all. One of them being suog. Suog is the mark that a tear leaves on your cheek as you're crying. And there's another one, scrub. Scrub is the kind of, not the bitterness, but the kind of the twang and the feeling on your mouth just as you're going to take a swig of whiskey, or you open a bag of crisps or chips, as we say. So we have many bits and pieces like that. There's such a depth in the language that explains as to how we are as people, how we act as people, who we are as people. And hopefully I told you, I really skimmed over a lot there, but hopefully it's made you inquisitive and interested to know more about the language, more about your background, more about the quite literally the indigenous language of Ireland, who makes us who we are. So thank you so much for having me. And I was thinking as well, here's another one, I won't make you do this, but at the beginning you did the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer also. I was going to say I'll write out the Pledge of Allegiance in Irish for you, and the prayer as well. That'll be difficult. So if anyone can get in touch with me, my website is viviennesayers.com. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on the lot of them. So if you have any questions and you're interested in learning Irish, just give me a shout anytime.